Today I'm going to show you how to knap a preform. This is a ground and cut Obsidian banded preform, and I really like these, and they're very popular because you don't use a lot of stone. It gives you the chance to pressure flake and learn your skills. If you can look, it's banded through there, and when you add a little bit of water you can see the colours come out, and everything's cut and shaped for you, so you're not using a huge amount of flint to get to it. And what I like about these is that you can learn your skills on here, and they apply to the bigger flint knapping as well. So I'll show you how to use them. I'll go through the tools that you need to work on the Obsidian preform, and that's an abrader. This is a coarse one, and then I've got a medium and a fine. This will get the really rough edges off, and this will get the finer edges off, because basically Obsidian's like a volcanic glass, and if you use a really coarse one all the time, it'll just blow it out and hack it up. Then you need a pressure pad to pressure flake on, of course a pressure flaker. You need the tip sharp to send the pressure flaking across. In terms of safety, you need glasses for eyewear protection, because the flakes do go everywhere. If you're not wearing them, you'll get some in your eye, and that is guaranteed. And some gloves as well, and hopefully that will prevent cuts and any sort of shards going into your hands. This is a really good thing to do outdoors, because when you flake anything off, it gives a fine dust which you can get silicosis from, and the old flint knappers and gun flint makers suffered from this quite badly. So do it outdoors or somewhere that's well ventilated. So I start off with the pressure pad, the Obsidian preform, and the sharp pressure flaker. I'm just going to have a look along the edge. And it's a little bit rough, so I'm going to take one of the smoother abrading stones and just smarten up a bit. That's just taking some of the coarseness off, so that when we pressure flake along, it should go easy. And there's a little channel in here which you pressure flake into, and that should send the flakes nicely along there. I'm looking for the edge here. I'll see if I can get this into the camera. There's a nice bevel there, so I'm going to work on this edge, and because the bevel's there, I'm going to pressure that way. There's a lot of terminology in flint knapping which can be quite confusing, but once you understand the theory, it's fairly straightforward. And when I talk about platforms, that's anything you can press on as a contact point to flint knap. So I'll start at the back, and I'll put some pressure on the edge. Put the pressure down and then press out. And what that's done is remove a small flake. And that's the start. And what you're aiming for with these ground preforms is to try and get the flakes about midpoint across there. And I haven't gone very far there, but I've only just begun, so I'll work along there. Now the next one runs down. You don't do it immediately next to it, you do it a bit further up, so these cones which are coming out here aren't touching. And see, that one's a bit more confident, a bit more of a bolder pressure flake. And I'll just work along it, do it a bit further up. That one was better. That one I pressed much further down, and it's almost sent it to the other side. So you want a happy medium between not too much pressure and going too far. That one I really shot it through, which is an easy overshoot, and I'm just getting the feel to manage to pressure flake to the midpoint. And bingo, there we are. Nice scar all the way to the midpoint. I'll continue along. Another midpoint scar. And that way you get uniform flaking. And the theory behind this is exactly the same as when you're doing bigger stuff, but it's a lot cheaper and you're doing less damage to the rock. You know, you can make mistakes here and you haven't ruined a whole set of rocks. There we go. Midpoint again. That one overshot. Because it's Obsidian, it's much easier to work with than Flint. It's a lot softer, so you can learn the technique without having to put a huge amount of force in there. And that's what I like about it. It's a bit more forgiving. There we go. And you can see the banding of the Obsidian starts to reveal itself as well. It's good fun. See, I didn't follow that through very well. Now I've got a little step fracture there, and you get these when you're flint knapping bigger stuff as well. We can probably tap most of that out. We'll catch it on the next way round. So that's pretty much one side done. I'll just run another flake off the back there. There we go. And each time you flake, get all of the glass off you, and that way it helps reduce the chance of cuts. And I'll do exactly the same on the other side, but because there was a bevel here, which is that angle, I'm going to go through the back and press along that way. I'll try and get the edge of that bevel there. See the bevel? And I'll do the other side now. So what we've got now is a row of flakes on either side. We've got a row here and a row here. I'll try and show this on the camera. Hopefully it will focus. Let me try and focus it, maybe you'll see it better because it's important. There we go, nearly there. There. So you can see there's loads of dips and troughs in there, and the row of flakes is along here. So what I'm going to do for a second pass is pressure flake along these peaks. And when I pressure flake along these peaks, I'll push and it'll follow these ridge lines through, doing the second row of scars. And this should keep it nice and tidy. I'll put you back on autofocus again. And what I will do is just tidy up the platform edge here to make it a bit stronger for when I pressure flake through. And I flip it over. Fine grader brader. And that just takes all the loose glass off, because if you pressure flake on loose glass it will just crumble and you'll have terrible lines. And this is just strengthening up those peaks I'm going to pressure flake along. Let's have a look. Yep. Let's pressure flake along them now. Now have a look to see the pressure flake is still sharp. I'm quite happy with that. When you're doing it with real flint, these can get blunt really quickly. Keep them nice and sharp and they work better for you. So what I'm going to do is put the pressure flaker along this ridge here and pressure flake along that. Hopefully it should travel further along. Let's see what happens. There we go. So that's where it's travelled along. It's quite difficult to film this and do it at the same time. So if you see now, I'll try and get the edge. That peak has now been removed and we're getting a flat line all along here. So I'll go to the next peak and run along that too. Then so look where we are, and run along the next peak. It's a bit slippery this peak, so I'm going to put one of the abraders on it so I can get a better grip. And all that does is roughen up the edge so that the pressure flaker will grab it. I'm just working along each of those peaks. And trying to get some nice scarring. Now if you Google pressure flaking, you'll find some fantastic work by people who are very much more experienced than me and been doing it a lot longer. And there are some professional flint knappers out there who do incredible work. Let's see where we are now. So that's one side pretty much finished. If you look, you can see the scarring running along. Now people can get that much tidier. And now all the peaks along there are gone. And we'll do exactly the same to the other side. So now I've gone twice over both sides, just having a look and see how I've done. I need to clear up that area there, and I've still got some area to clean up there, so I can either try and tackle that way or come through this way. So I'm going to have a go at working the other side now. There and there, and we have to strengthen up the platform surface because it's quite weak and brittle now, and we do that by abrading the edges. That just takes off all of the loose glass. We don't attack it too vigorously, otherwise you end up taking big chunks out of it. I'm trying to keep a good shape as well. So keep a good shape along there. So we're going along this back side now. So that's a medium grit, and then I'll go for a finer grit. we work along it exactly the same as what we've been doing. So I'm going to work along this edge and try and pressure flake out here. So I've run flakes along all of the sides now. I need to run some flakes along the back, and we're going to evaluate the piece and see how we're doing. So if you look at this side, I've got a few bits which haven't peeled off along there. You'll see them, they're just dull bits. This little island here, and along the back, which I'm going to work shortly. Now on the other side we've got a bit more of a problem. The other side, where is it? Oh no, here it is actually. Here's the problem. So we've got this bit here which hasn't peeled off, but underneath it we've got what's called a step. So if I try and flake up through this way, it's going to hit the step, just snap out. So I can't really attack it through this side and peel off any of here. And also it's a bit more over this far side, so it'd make more sense to come from here. Now because we've got this edge thinning out a bit, I've made something what's called an isolated platform, which will become familiar when you use bigger bits of flint. And here's the isolated platform. Hopefully it can zoom in nicely. Let me have to go into manual focus again. It's important you can see this. There we go. Yeah, that's nice. So here's the edge, and here's the isolated platform. Now what that does is it strengthens up the edge so you can press harder, firmer flakes which will shoot further across. And I want to do that because I want to take out as much of this as possible. So when I pressure flake, I think I'm going to try and pressure flake in this direction to try and clear out as much as possible there. And you create an isolated platform by basically removing around here, and then hopefully you can see it. Is it going to zoom? Then here is what I'm going to press on, and that's a little bit raised up, so I'll be pressing exactly there and then shooting across there. Let's see what happens. It may work, it may not. Just eyeing it up. And then because there's the channel along here, I want to have the flake where it's going to detach running down that channel so it can release freely. It makes me a bit nervous when you isolate platforms and put a lot of pressure through, because it's not impossible to snap the whole thing in half. I'm just eyeing it up. There's also a crest running along from the isolated platform which will send the shock wave along. And these are techniques which you use in the bigger flint knapping as well. So you understand it here and you can make it here, then you can easily do it on a lot bigger stone. Let's see how this goes. There we go. So it's removed quite a large chunk of it there. And what I'll do is I'll set up an isolated platform and work over there as well. So let's see where we've got to now. That bit which was on there earlier which needed removing, I've managed to remove it. by using the isolated platforms there and there, I managed to take a fair amount of it off, but that wasn't enough. So what I had to do was come from the other side, shave down like that, which raises the platform into that sort of angle, and then pressure flake along it and catch it from that side. So there we go. So looking at both edges now, there's nothing left along here. There's a little bit of a hinge there which you can often tap out, and I'll have a go at that later. Nothing left on here either. So I just need to remove along here, shape it up tidily, and then put some notching in. I can notch in there, in there, in there, or in there, wherever I feel like. But let's get the end off. And again, this end is beveled. Hopefully you can see that. I've got a bit of manual focus so you can see a bit better. Because you need to see. Where are we? There we go. You see how that's beveled that way? So because it's beveled that way, we'll pressure flake that way. You can't really pressure flake against that bevel. And the edge is a little bit rough, so I'll abrade that with probably a medium stone, and then we'll shoot some flakes along there. Back to manual focus. Autofocus, should I say. Abrade along the bevel, which will strengthen it up. And I only need to come out to about this distance, so we shouldn't need to give it too much force. And it's a little bit nervous working the ends, because you can soon snap the piece. Let's see what happens. What I've also done is I've resharpened the pressure flaker, and you can do this by either filing it down with one of the abraders like that, which still keeps it soft, or you can hammer it down into a flat edge, which strengthens the copper. So I've hammered it just with a stone to make it pointed, then finished off the edge with the medium abrader. Let's work along there then. Try and get this in shot. I'm trying to hold it right without putting too much pressure on the end. There we go, that's a bit better. So I'm trying to leave that end free, so I'm not putting any pressure on it. That took a fair amount off. See, so that removed all of that. There's a bit of a hinge there I'll need to get to somehow, but I can either try and get to it from there or go through there. We'll see what happens. Try and take another flake off. It's all about removing that outer surface, which is quite rough, so you get the smooth underneath and you get some nice flake scars on it as well. And the more you get into this, the tidier the flake scars get, and the more attractive the pieces come. That's removed a fair bit there too. And I'll try and remove that hinge from the other side there. There we go. Smooth across the bottom. Got a little island there we need to remove, and I'm going to try and go in that way to remove it. And to do that, we need to raise this edge here by just pressuring this off and try and make an isolated platform. Hopefully it's still in shot. Sort of demonstrate how to isolate a platform. When you're on the underside like this, you're pressing inwards. That'll help blow it out. And then you flip it over and you flake outwards, which will help spread the flake. So hopefully you can see this okay. So there's the isolated platform which will travel across through there. I've got to sturdy this edge up a bit. The better you get at this, the less you need to isolate the platforms. You should be able to run a couple of passes down each side and not much more. But the fun and enjoyment is learning and improving. And once you've learnt the knowledge, the technique and the technical terms, then it translates beautifully to the bigger stone and you have a better understanding. So rather than having a pile of rubble which you don't really know what's happened, you've learnt a lot just from using a small preform. So I've isolated the platform there. I'm going to try and take off this hinge here and see what happens. Bingo. Yep, it's gone. So then we'll take the back side off here. And the bevel's still a bit there and the bevel's angled in that direction. So what I need to do is reverse the bevel so it's at that direction. And then I can flake that way. So I've got to pick it out basically. Try not to snap it in the process. And you will snap some of these, but if you think about why you've snapped it when you've done it, then you can move on and hopefully not repeat the same mistakes twice. So pressing down like that, in the camera, pressing down like that raises the edge up and then you can shoot the flakes across, but it's a very weak edge now, so you need to abrade it. If you just abrade it that way, you'll shoot loads of the glass off, so you need to go this way first. And that's taking off the most weakest points. Let's have a look at the overall shape. Yeah, quite happy with that. And I want a bit of a thicker, stronger platform to shoot the flakes. So I'll do it along here. Let's see how we're doing. I think that one almost there. I'm just creating a rough edge with a pressure flaking, you can get a purchase. Let's run it along. Trying to get the right angle without putting too much pressure on the tip. I'm coming this way. There we go, that's a nice one. Clear out all the glass so that the flakes will come off cleanly and not get tangled up with the other glass. Move along a little bit. One's came out okay. And there we go. Move along. There we go. So that's removed everything that side. And sometimes you'll get bits of glass on there. You can just tap out. So, I'm going to focus. Come on. There we go. So we've got the basic outline shape. What I'll do now is tidy the shape up and then prepare it for notching. As I'm tidying the shape up, what I'm looking for is, I'll get this in focus and closer up. Hopefully you can see it. Let me move myself out of the way a bit. There we go. What I'm looking for is to get that line level, so it's not under, it's not over, it needs to be level all the way along and clean. There can't be any ridges or any dips, and that way you'll get a lovely shape. So I'll show you a little bit of it, then I'll spend some time working on it and get back to you. So you can see we'll put this on autofocus again. So what we've got along here is where I made a platform earlier. So get this in shot. Where I made a platform earlier, I've got a big bulk there, which needs trimming up. So I'll see which side, whether it's sitting high or low, and just take it out. That's all you need to do. You're not looking to shoot flakes across, you're just looking to tidy up shapes. You're pressing down as opposed to pushing flakes through. There we go. And that's lowered the line down to the bottom here. So I'll just tidy it up by bringing the central line up a bit. You see how that's kind of brought the line out? And I'll go around the rest of it doing the same, and also braiding a little bit to tidy it up, and then I'll get back to you in a sec. So this is how far I've got with it now. And I've got a shape that I'm happy with. I'll try and show you to the camera. Oh, he dropped it. Let's see. Really nice shape that I'm happy with. See the banded obsidian lines in there on the edge. It's fairly straight. I would like it straighter, but there you go. I'm quite happy with it for today. Now I need to notch it. We need to put the notches in, which are used for binding onto arrow shafts. Now what you can use is a pressure flaker plus a notcher, or a notcher instead, and the notcher is this thing, which helps you get into tight gaps. Now I need to decide where I'm going to put the notches in. I can go in this way, that way, that way, that way, or all of them. There's many ways. It's a bit thin to go in that way, but I might go in that way and see how we do. I'll try it first and see where we get. I'll put you back onto autofocus. so you can see what's happening. So I'll go in through the back way, and I'm going to have a look at the best side, which will have the front of the notches. I think it's got to be this side, I think. Usually braid it. I've got the shape that I want now. And the abrade is just roughing the edge, so we've got something for the pressure flaker to grab hold of. Let's see what happens. I'll start off with the pressure flaker. It'll come in directly from the edge. Pressure flaker is not very sharp, so I'll just touch up a little bit. This bit also makes me nervous because this is when you can snap things and blow things out. You can see the point's a bit sharper now. Let's crack on. I'll try. Have a look. Should see. You should be able to see it's made a dent there. And the dent's starting to come in there. So we just need to expand on that. Look at the notcher in there now. Let's have a look and try and keep it uniform. That's what I didn't want. It's taken some of the corner off, unfortunately. So what I'll do is I'll round it. Shall I round it? I'll round it and then I'll start again. So there we go. I've rounded it and made it symmetrical again. And we'll carry on trying to notch it. Hopefully this time with a bit more success. Just make the pressure flaker nice and sharp again. Let's be a bit more careful this time. can see the notches starting to form. You can see I'm starting to get the shape there. Just tied it up a little bit. And we'll have a go at the other side. Just check the symmetry on there. So come a little bit more. And you've got your notches there. Let's have a look. See if I'm happy with that. I'm just going to tidy that up a bit with a finer braider to get any loose glass off. And we get to see what sort of shape we've got. And there we've got some notches. Put it onto manual focus so you can see clearly. And there we go. Perfect. And I'm pretty happy with that. Don't think I'm going to work it a whole lot more, maybe tied it up a little bit. And that's how you work with preforms. Thanks for watching.